So you're feeling pretty good, right? Hypomania. Mania. This is the good part of the illness. The superpower. You have an abundance of energy. You've never felt better about yourself. You're taking care of so many things. Your life is perfect. You are perfect. Everything is perfect and rainbows and sunshine. And you have the energy to keep up with anything. Hypomania often even goes misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. People with bipolar 2 who have only had hypomania, because it seems like you're the best version of yourself. And people don't realize you're an amplified version of yourself. Hypomania and the addictive positive feelings of mania, missing that, particularly when people also go through depression, is one of the reasons why people with bipolar stop taking their medication in the dead of depression, longing for the hypomanic self. Any sensation, but knowing that they could feel good. It's not really a logical decision, but it subconsciously just kind of happens. So, this is a good thing, right? Mania? I mean, just hypomania. That's good. That doesn't cause any problems. People don't even think you're ill. They just think you're the best version of you. And it feels really good. It feels good, and you can take care of so much. You don't cause anybody any harm, right? So, what's wrong with it? What's the downside to hypomania, even? I'm so sorry to rain on your parade. There's a few things that you need to keep in mind, even with hypomania. Just as depression exists on a continuum, mania exists on a continuum. People are far more likely to notice that they feel shitty. So a depressive episode can be caught and treated sooner than a hypomanic or manic episode. You will catch it before you reach a severe level. Hypomania always has the chance of turning into full-blown mania. Every time you have a hypomanic episode, you may become manic. And mania ends up being destructive. So you're always risking that chance. And you don't have insight. Because when we just have a good day, how do we know that we're just having a good day? You're less likely to have insight going up than you are coming down. And the longer you're up, the less insight you have. So one of the dangers of hypomania is that it causes bipolar to be untreated, yes, but every time you go there, you risk full-blown mania. And you won't have the ability to keep your insight going upward. Also, bipolar is a progressive illness, so the longer you have it untreated, so having these depressive episodes and then the enjoyable hypomania The worse it can get, you can find yourself moving upward in the scale of illness that you have, and a shortening of the duration between episodes to the point of becoming a rapid cycler, where you lose your normal. That's, instability. A life of instability is not what we want. Although feeling great feels great, you're guaranteed to follow a hypomania or a mania with an equal drop. So you will be guaranteed for this pleasant feeling of hypomania and what it brings you. You're guaranteed to experience the other half to the same depth as your high. It'll be, at least as far as I know, layman, approximate drop, crash, depression that you had for an up, if you have an up. So also, because that is not something enjoyable, you are walking right into it by allowing yourself to have untreated hypomania. So that's another danger with hypomania. Mania. Mania doesn't always feel good to everybody. It's a misconception that mania is a positive, euphoric, grandiose, awesome feeling for everyone. Some people experience it as a paranoia, an anxiety, a discomfort. It's a very disquieting, unnerving, buzzing type of an energy, and it doesn't feel so good. But even if it feels good, you can only drive a car so fast down the street, especially blindly, before you hit something. When you get into full-blown, you've passed hypomania, you didn't have any insight, you've gotten to full mania, and you're doing all this stuff, but you're not finishing any of it. You start to make poor choices, poor investments, thrill-seeking, doing things to increase and buttress your inflated self-esteem and grandiosity and increased energy and all of these things, and you get very disorganized, and it begins to interfere with your personal relationships, with your productivity, with your job, with everything. You begin to interfere with everything, and it may feel good at the time. It may still feel really good. But when you are no longer sick, you will look back at a period of full-blown mania, and mania eventually you'll probably end up in the hospital if it's not intercepted. But you will look back at a manic episode in your normal self with regret eventually for your behavior that seemed like a really great idea at the time. You let go of your self-care. You don't sleep. You don't eat. You do things that would be embarrassing because you're just on go all the time. And it's only a matter of time before something gives out. It's just a question of how bad that crash is going to be. So, mania doesn't always feel good. And mania, this power trip of Energizer Bunny energy, becomes highly ineffective. You go in all these different directions, and you can't follow through with any of them. You become somebody who's not just confident and social. You become someone who is boisterous and pushy and scattered. Your speech even becomes scattered. You can get to the point where you just don't make any sense. You're just going so fast. You move, twitch, speak a million miles an hour. You are just not effective, and you are out of your own control, and you don't realize it. And the higher and higher and higher and longer this goes, the more disruptive it's going to be. And again, even if you don't get that high, going without treatment, you risk going higher and higher or closer together. So, I'm sure there's more to be said, but I'm actually not manic or hypomanic even. I'm actually in the midst of a depressive episode, so I'm a little brain dead. But I don't think I could speak on mania or hypomania without coming from a normal or lower perspective about what's wrong with it, because when you're in it, you don't know what's wrong with it. You only know as an after effect. So it's important to be informed of the dangers of mania. It's not guaranteed to be a positive experience. You will end up doing things that you regret, doing things that are ineffective, behaving in a way that doesn't become you and that you wouldn't behave otherwise, potentially really messing up your life with your decisions that are not based in concrete thinking. They're based in the other end of the spectrum of your mental illness, and behaving in ways that you regret. The actions stay, and all of your brilliant ideas may not be so brilliant, but they really seem so at the time. Some things you can do is to, again, just as with depression, be aware that this is a portion of the illness. So you may not catch yourself becoming hypomanic and moving on. You may not catch yourself. But if you are mindful and self-aware of what your regular behaviors are, how much exercise, activities, socializing, housekeeping, spending, confidence, how many projects do you typically pick up on normal, average, baseline, you? When you start to notice what is normal for you, you begin to become more aware when you're out of your normal. You can catch yourself better and realize that you might be starting to have an episode. When you find that people stop and try and pause you because you're talking too much, you're talking over them, they can't get a word in edgewise. People start to comment about that. You're taking on a bunch of projects. You've got paintings pulled out, and you're going to write music, and you're reading 12 books, and you've joined a club, and you've started volunteering, and you're doing a million things suddenly. And especially when you notice that extreme uptick of involvement and activity, you don't seem to finish those things that you start. You have things pulled out all over the house, and they're not coming to fruition. You are more than self-confident. You just feel like you could walk up to anyone, the President of the United States, and just have a fine conversation. You catch these things. If you notice that your spending is a little bit off and you've been blowing through money, or things that are not typical for you, you can practice mindfulness and conscientiousness and try to mitigate damage. Try to rein yourself in as best you can despite the feeling, and make conscious, calculated decisions that would be effective for you in a normal situation. Attempt to sleep. Try to focus your mind. Pick one of those projects at a time and work on it to completion. Put it away before working on something else. Make calculated social risks. If it's completely out of character for you to be doing something like you're doing, and it's not in any kind of beneficial way, like if I hopped on the bus and just started traveling all over the place, it would pay dividends. But if I were proceeding into mania, I may wind up on the streets in California, and that would not pay dividends. So do not do things, do not make drastic changes, do not do things when you are feeling very up. If you have the urge to be doing things that are extreme and out of character for you, and you notice your appetites and your lack of sleep and your multiple projects and things, and you cannot, these things that characterize your hypomanias and low manias, and you realize that you are off, you can report this to your support person, to your doctors, although oftentimes it is the regularity of seeing your doctors that they catch this before you do, because you are often oblivious before you reach full-blown mania that you're even in hypomania. But if you can become familiar with yourself, you notice the uptick, and an uptick that's beyond just a good week, and there's a problem, and you need to get in front of the problem. Contacting your doctors, medication, mindfulness, and being aware that for as high as you go, you will crash just as badly, and this has potential to have negative implications for you later. If you find yourself unable to do those projects one at a time, to keep your mouth shut, not to be doing all that you are doing, you try to slow down your mind, to slow down your body, to maintain focus and do things in a rational, normal, productive, and efficient, like hypomania, productive and efficient way, and you can't. You can't sleep. You can't not make spontaneous, over-the-top decisions. You can't not be working on 8 or 9 things at once. You can't slow down your mind. You can't. You can't. You're broaching the territory that things are going to be really problematic for you. And you want to prevent that because you're going into mania. When your thoughts are racing and you're no longer in control. Just like on the reverse side of depression, the chemicals in your brain can be too much, and it is as if you are on a drug that you do not have control over. At some point, you lose control, and it is not worth it. It's not a positive, the damage that is reaped. You catch yourself, attempt to mindfully control yourself, and if you are unable to control yourself, you may be experiencing mania, and you need to call your doctors, tell your people, put your things in place that you had ahead of time for covering major depression episodes. You may need to take some time off work. It may be simple enough to tweak your medication or something, but at least having watchful eyes on you before you lose the ability to watch yourself is good. And in your interpersonal relationships and on your job, knowing that you're sick is at least somewhat helpful to those people that you may unintentionally be short with, disruptive, chaotic, difficult to be around, that you may be frustrating, that you are sick is important. It's important to educate your surrounding friends and family about the signs of your particular type of bipolar, hypomania, mania, so that they can catch you before it gets disruptive. Again, you are going to fall as far as you flew. And the flying isn't always fun. It guarantees that your life will be unstable instead of smooth. It is disruptive to your friends, to your family, to your employment, to your life in general, to your self-esteem, because later you look back and you're like, ooh. You end up going from getting so many things done to getting nothing done, and being bombastic, obnoxious, disorganized, and difficult, doing things you wouldn't otherwise do, and jeopardizing things. You can also carry so far into this that you begin to have delusions and believe mood congruently that you are a famous person, a famous author, or a religious figure, or mood incongruently that you are on some mission, you have to sacrifice yourself, the FBI is after you, paranoid. As I said, mania isn't always the same positive feeling for everyone, and it's not always the same positive feeling every time. And then things really get messed up. And at the end of the day, do you want to have a bunch of consequences and lay awake of disruption in your life? Or do you want your life to be your own? Is hypomania really worth it? And you're guaranteed to feel the other side of the coin, even if you only have hypomania and it only feels good. And the more often you allow hypomania to be, the shorter your duration of normal non-sick periods can become, and you can get worse and worse and worse illness. So it needs to be observed. You need to be regularly being seen by doctors so that they can see what you may be missing if you don't want a worse illness. And you may not need any treatment for hypomania, but they do need to keep an eye on you. And so do your friends and family. And as far as you can, you need to keep an eye on yourself. It can get to a point where in mania you believe you can fly and you go hop off a building because you are not thinking clearly. You think you just won $1 million. You are super rich. That comes from nowhere. It's a delusion. And so you quit your job, sell your house, divorce your partner. Can't take that back. Not everybody has these extreme disruptions. But do you really want to risk it? Is it really worth the risk of feeling good and being really productive and positive and everybody likes you for a week or two here or there above your normal you, to risk handing over your decisions about how you conduct your life to a mental illness? You want to be in control of your own life. Whether you have an illness that is at a level that you can control with diet and exercise and meditation and mindfulness, it's your prerogative. Or you have a medication, an illness that is at the point where you have been to such an extreme on the low but also on the high that it is far worse for you to have those episodes than it is to be medicated. Whatever your approach is to your treatment, you have to be aware that hypomania can become mania. Mania is not always fun. Mania is disruptive to your general health, your overall life, and it is not you. It's not you. It's a characterization of you on a high-inducing chemical. And eventually you look back and regret. Again, you can't drive a car 100 miles an hour down the road with your eyes closed. before you crash. And I'm not talking about the depressive crash, though that's the other negative about this, is that you will experience a crash, a depression. It's that it's just a matter of what the cost will be and when. And so make sure that you are being treated in whatever your treatment. If you are not being treated, at least have a community of people who are aware, being seen by therapy, group therapy, so that people can notice differences in you that you do not notice in yourself. Have documentation ahead of time in case something happens that is beyond your control, and you require it. Hospitalizations and other things, and that your people that are close to you are aware of what your symptoms are, so they can let you know what you can't see. And try to be mindful of yourself. Know what is normal for you, and know when it's a bit too much, and still try to keep conscientious about what you are doing despite the illness as long as you can. And listen. Listen to other people when they tell you kindly and genuinely. You know, some people are just jerks and they're gonna be like, yeah, you're manic because you're having an attitude that particular day, or you're taking a calculated risk. You feel good about yourself. Some people are just jerks. But the people that know you, that care about you, that are informed about you, that know what you're like normally, and your doctors and things, if they say they think you may be having an episode, they're probably right. Sorry to rain on your parade. But it's not worth the risk. So few of the times is that drop in the pan going to be fantastic and add to your life in a permanent sort of a way, and not progress to worse things or half-done projects and lack of sleep and potentially far worse things. That tiny bit of afterglow, it's not worth it. So try to consciously control your manias, be aware of them. And if you are no longer able to be aware or to control them, call for help. And make sure that the people around you know you, they know your condition, you have documentation. Because likely you're going to be the last to know you've got a problem. Not a positive. So, that's my first little spiel on approaching hypomania, mania. Why it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and why you need to be as careful of it, if not more careful. I mean, the ultimate extreme danger of severe depression could be a loss of life. The end result of a mania is a heck of a lot of problems all over the place. Loss of relationship, loss of just losses, the same kind of losses you would expect from a depression. And although it feels good at the time, the consequences won't feel good, and the end result could well be a loss of life if you are full-blown manic. So just because it feels good doesn't mean it is, and it doesn't mean it's worth it. Your overall quality of life, your consistency, your friendships, balanced as you can be, real joy, appreciating real joy, being able to consistently pursue that real joy because you're not getting sick regularly, because you're not pining after hypomania, and all the dangers that come with it. That's the best road, the middle path, normal. Love you guys. Have a good day. Bye, YouTube. I'm sure I could have said things more effectively here, and I'm sure there's more to say, but again, I'm actually depressed. It's amazing what a little makeup can do to propagate the illusions and the assumptions that we have, others have, of what this is. But important to follow up the depression videos is a video, maybe the first of others, regarding the opposite of mania, and why mania's not all it cracked up to be. No matter how good you feel, you won't feel good about this later. Bye, you guys. Love you.